Welcome back to Travel Again Insights, a weekly look at what matters most to our amazing industry. Ed, good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Mike. Today, we're going to start with an article from the Wall Street Journal. The U.S. is expecting all inbound international flights to have a negative COVID test before you board on the international side. Let's talk about that article from the Wall Street Journal first today, Mike.
Well, the unfortunate part, I think, is that a number of things. One is that it was a bit of kind of surprise. All of a sudden, we have this new policy in place that, albeit the policy itself may be needed, warranted, valid. I mean, we're looking at how do we, in very difficult times, reduce risk. We're fighting obviously the big war on COVID. But the problem is, again, it's inconsistent in that we're doing all these things that are these separate disjointed efforts, both as countries, states, policy that's being created, new procedures, enforcement, not enforcing. It's creating a tremendous amount of confusion for the people on the front lines trying to do this, right, and in their ability to implement. And then you have to really dig into how effective is it. What we really need is what we've been recommending and pushing hard for is we need standards that are cut across all jurisdictions for everyone. We need a common way that we're approaching this to reduce risk. We can't eliminate risk, and what it's doing, unfortunately, is creating confusion and disruption for the people that do need to travel. Again, we're never suggesting that we should all be out running out to travel again. We need to methodically, safely, slowly build back travel and the travel infrastructure and give the people the ability to go and travel without quarantine. All this equates to right now is, in effect, a prohibition on travel. And the problem is that if that's the intent, let's state that as the intent so people know that's what we're the mode we're in. If that's not the intent, that's effectively what we're doing. So that's not where we need to be right now as an industry for the economy, for trying to, for a recovery. It's again just disjointed, and we need a better way. And we think our recommendations are a key part of this. We've got to get everybody going behind this as an industry in the right direction if we're going to have a good recovery.
Yeah, Mike, I agree, and I'd add two comments. One, a single individual test is a moment in time, and so my concern is that people will begin traveling with a single test and feel like it's safe to do whatever they want, and that's simply not the case. The science doesn't back that up. And two, as you said, no matter where you land, the requirements when you get there are different. Even with that test, quarantine periods are radically different across the world and state by state here in the U.S. And that simply adds up to continued prohibition on those who really do need to travel. Again, repeating that we're not pushing people to travel aggressively right now, but if those who need to travel and want to travel, this doesn't really help in the case.
Yeah, and the fundamental difference between the tactics you use in a war on terrorism versus a war on disease is that in terrorism, sometimes the inconsistency and the unpredictability is a key part of how you reduce risk and have a better security effort, right? And a way of randomly creating ways to evaluate what's happening and to really catch the bad actors, right? In this situation, that's not the case. We need as much predictability as possible so that people know what to do, they can participate in the process, and that's what we're looking for. And again, we need standards that we can all work from. You can make exceptions to standards, but if you don't have the standards to begin with in place, it creates chaos.
Yeah, and in particular, it drives down traveler confidence, which I know we'll talk about later on in the discussion. Mike, the next article is very interesting. Microsoft, Oracle, and Salesforce have joined together to push for a digital vaccination credential. We've seen a number of associations, nonprofits, as well as commercial enterprises on digital health passports, whether it's testing or vaccination. But it's nice to see three large corporations getting together around this. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, so again, generally this is good news. You want big companies, entities working together, people that have resources, have the, frankly, for their employees when the time comes for adoption. You've got a number of reasons why this is all good in terms of people getting behind it. the footnotes, the concerns, the red flags a bit are, what we don't want this to be is something that where there's like a rush to normalcy. Like if I get vaccinated, I can show I'm vaccinated, then my responsibility ends. Like I can just go back to living my life the way I used to in 2019, right? And that's not the reality. The reality is, even if you're vaccinated, you have a responsibility to the rest of the world and everyone you meet, because you may basically still be a carrier and could still potentially spread the virus. So even that's assuming that vaccines are 100% effective, which they're not. So again, not trying to be negative about any of this. This is a key part of our platform, but I think we have to put it in context of, again, an overall set of recommendations and a way that we're also communicating about an ongoing responsibility that we all have to the way we travel, the way we work, the way we interact, and again, a long-term commitment to the things that are going to be required to prevent disease.
Yeah. I mean, I agree totally, Mike. I mean, I love seeing this come together. Some major names in technology. I think they could apply a lot of pressure and good technology to solving this problem. But to your point, again, the vaccine doesn't mean that you don't have to take precautions. There were a few articles covering this that actually said it's either a vaccine or testing, and that is actually not true. So you have to be careful how you read that news.
Very concerning, right? Because we do not know that, and I would venture to bet, I mean, that industry experts are saying that it's actually exactly the opposite. We can't jump to that conclusion. I know we all want to put back the clocks to before all this happened and go back to resuming that life, but the fact is we are forever changed. We have to accept that, and it doesn't mean we can't travel again. We can't resume a global economy and all the things that come with that, but we have to do it responsibly.
Yeah, the only other comment, a couple of the articles talked about, this is not just a push in relation to travel, but also a get back to the office initiative.
Yeah, directly related.
Yeah, and I think those are very related. The corporate confidence, if you can't go to your own office, you're certainly not going to want your staff traveling. So I think this is a good push towards solving both of those things.
Yes.
Talking about vaccinations as well as traveler confidence, this week we launched the results of our December survey on traveler confidence. Why don't you tell the audience about the results of that and what it means?
Yep. So third month running of basically surveying business travelers, leisure travelers about traveler confidence. No surprise, confidence remains at really all-time low. The only bright spot is that there was an uptick in the number of business travelers at least planning travel in the coming months, in the coming 3 months. So maybe a little bit of hope there, a little bit of positive news, but again, at levels that are way, still 80% below where they should be and need to be to get back to business and to life. But I would say the question we added this month was about use of the vaccine and or would you basically, as a business traveler, as a leisure traveler, get the vaccine? And we got 1 in 4 basically said no, which means, very simply, the things we were just talking about. We can't assume the vaccine is the, permanent answer that allows us to just basically resume what we were doing. It means that a number of people will not be vaccinated by choice, and that we need to continue to be vigilant and have the procedures in place as if, and ones that I think we can follow, should follow, and will make us, safer as a society for the long term.
Thanks, Mike. Last article was another article about what you need to know in 2021 if you're going to travel. And this one highlighted travel again.
Yeah, thanks to Scott McCartney. Wrote a very nice article. We contributed to it, and he gave us mention. But again, I think some good insight in there and some good tips for people who are planning travel, who need to travel. And again, there's a lot of information out there, but this is a nice recap.
Okay, those are the insights for this week, Mike.
Great. Good to see you as always, Ed, and we'll see you back next week.
Thank you, everyone.